So thank you very much for joining me today, Colin. Much
Thanks for
appreciated.
inviting me.
Yes, no
Thanks for
problem at
inviting
all.
me.
My first guest on the show, first of many. I've got quite a lot of interest so far, and I think I've got about another five lined up. So this
Well,
should be good fun.
very
So
good. Onwards and upwards from here.
exactly, start with the best, Colin. Start with the best. Okay, good. So I'll go through some questions. I've kind of preset you
Hmm.
questions. So hopefully you've had a chance to have a think about them. So your full name is Colin S. Campbell, is that right?
Hmm.
What
It
does the
is.
S can I ask?
Stuart,
Stuart, there we go. Never knew that. And your age?
62.
52. Recently retired. Was it? When did you retire?
I retired in 2018. It's actually come up for 2.5 years
It's
since I
nice.
retired. So yeah.
And how do you fill your time now, especially with badminton off the rails? How do you fill your time? I see a bit of
Been doing
running
a
and things.
lot of walking,
Yeah, that's good.
lot of I've been done more running probably since lockdown than I've done at any other time in
Yeah.
my life. And obviously there have been periods where it's been possible to play tennis and been doing quite a bit of that. But at the moment, it's only outdoor tennis, and the courts would be certainly unplayable near where we are at the
I
moment.
know. Where about do you play tennis?
Well, I was playing at David Lloyd's.
Oh yeah, okay, that's indoors, of course. Yes, yeah,
My
that's
wife
nice.
is a member at Thistle, so we sometimes play there as well.
Oh, that's nice. I've been playing a bit of tennis myself. It's so frustrating, is it? I think I just decided I needed some racket sports after several months of not being able to play. I needed tennis, but I have to tell you, I'm woeful. I don't know about you. I'm absolutely terrible at tennis. I couldn't get the ball in the court for a long time.
I'm playing a bit better, probably playing as well as I've ever done, to be honest.
I
But I've played
know.
more in the last few months than I've ever done in my life.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to be outside, I think. I quite like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
Good. That's fine. And your home area?
So originally, I come from the Black Isle, just north of
Oh,
Inverness,
oh.
and I grew up initially in a tiny village called Cullen, and then we moved to Fortrose, which was one of the bigger places in the Black
Oh,
Isle.
wow.
And I went to secondary school there, and that's where the
So what
family
age was
home
that?
was.
What was that age was that you moved to Fort
I was about 10, and that's when I started playing badminton as well.
was it? Actually had a look at your hall that you've been playing in when you were. Uh, I've actually had a look at your hall and I can see it there. So is that the hall you played in?
It is. It is. Yes. The interior of it looks somewhat smarter now than it
I
did
think
when
it's
we
been done
got
up. Actually, and
it.
when I looked at it, there's a big thing on the press about. You see this there? There's a big thing. We see multi-million pounds worth of investment, a good cause. So they've
Right.
obviously look how nice the lines are.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing, it looks a lot nicer now. The interesting thing that you may or may not know, but there's a lot of old paintings there, which we all thought were horrible, but actually turned out they were extremely valuable. One of
Really?
them's in the gallery in the Mound.
Is that what we can see on the wall there? Are they still there?
Well, no,
Were they
it's
there?
actually it's in the Mound now. It's a
Is
massive. It
it?
used to cover the whole of the
Really?
back line. And in fact, if you look closely, if you're ever in the art gallery, you can actually see where somebody put their racket through through the painting. It was then restored, and I hasten to say it wasn't me, and it
Was
wasn't.
it?
It wasn't any of my family, but yeah.
Oh,
So
that's brilliant. It looks really impressive. I think I'd be a bit scared to play badminton in our mind. I think with the paintings especially. But it's I actually tried. I had a wee look on the website to try and find out exactly how much it costs to hire now for badminton. It looks like a nice hall. It's not dissimilar to what we played in Belford. There was an old courtrooms in
uh,
Belford where we used to play, and the radius, it's just as you say, the radius is about a foot from the line, from the white
yeah.
line, and oh yeah, it's dusty, incredibly dusty floors. But it was
I'm surprised that they're still playing badminton there because there's a brand new sports centre in Fortress where they
is that
hold the Highland Open, which is moved on significantly from the facilities that we had when we were when we were
Me
in Black
too.
Isle. But yeah,
We're all the same, isn't it? And sorry, yeah, okay. The next question was about your brothers and sisters, and did you play with
yeah,
them as well?
yeah. So I've got three brothers, and I guess when we moved to Fortrose, particularly my two older brothers, Donald and Ian, were starting to play quite seriously,
Yeah,
and as well as doing extremely well in sort of competitions in the Highlands,
yeah.
started to do very well in competitions down in the Central Belt. So, so I guess that was an incentive for me as the youngest in the family to try and see if I could emulate
So
their
is it like
success.
so? I'm one of three brothers. One of I've actually got three brothers, and my eldest doesn't play at all. But my next two brothers both play, and
Okay.
I think part of my drive was, especially in singles, was we used to go and there would be nobody there. You know, snowy nights. You'd walk to about 3 miles to this village hall and play, and there was just the three of us. And all we do is play singles for 2 hours at a time with Yonex AS30 shuttles, those plastic shuttles. And but I was because I was there was only about 2 years in between us actually. There's only
Uh-huh.
so I've got three. So and I was always the youngest, and I was a battle to try and win. I wasn't very my footing wasn't. I was always full of enthusiasm, but my enthusiasm outweighed my ability. I would say. So what age difference did you have?
Well, Donald's 4.5 years older than me, and Ian's 5.5 years older than me. So
Yeah,
when you're 10, 11, 12, or even up to 14, 15 years old, that's a big difference in badminton
yeah,
terms. And
terms.
so, you know, so I used to play against them, but I wouldn't have been competitive against them until,
Yeah.
maybe I was about 16. And then could
And they were
have
21.
competitive. So yeah, 2021, and yeah, so it was. So probably was still not beating them at that stage, but occasionally managed a few wins against them
Yeah,
over the
yeah.
years.
So familiar, so similar to me. And then when you went to the club, how often was that club? How often did you go there? Could you go any time? Was it club nights? What was it?
Well, there was a club in I think the club probably was only at the town hall was only once a week, but at the school, um, there was badminton at the school, and
Really?
we probably played. I honestly can't remember, but probably most nights where
Really?
we could do, if we hadn't got something else on, we probably played
When you
badminton
say
after.
we, who was that?
Well, so there were some other people in my school that were keen as well, and obviously my brothers. And so basically, I suppose it all started from my father, who was
Oh, really? Yeah.
very keen on badminton and tennis,
Was it?
and so he was a good local player in his day,
Yeah, really,
and he was a teacher at the school, and he took the after school badminton, and
really.
he did that
Oh, that's perfect.
from the time that we were involved until he retired.
What was his
So
name?
Bertie
Bertie,
Campbell.
Bertie Campbell.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So he was the
So
coach.
so he was he was our
That's
the
perfect.
coach
Being there
until.
with your uncle, giving you a lift home at the end of a night, I guess, and all that stuff, was it?
Sorry.
Your uncle giving you a lift home at the end of the night and all that kind of stuff, was it? Or did you
No,
quite local to it?
yeah, no, I didn't play with my uncle, but no, but we basically the school was walking distance of where we
Was it
lived
from
in
the house?
Fortress.
Perfect.
Yeah, so
Wow.
it's a small place.
That's amazing, yeah. So what age were you when you first played? You said there, but 10, do you think?
Yeah,
Well,
10.
yeah,
Yeah,
10, wow. And do you remember why did you start playing? I guess that was family, really, was it?
yeah, that was absolutely family, and I think even before I started playing, I remember the All England used to be shown on ITV, and those were the days we
Really?
only had two channels. In fact, we were lucky if we could get to ITV, and where we lived, the signal wasn't very good, but we desperately tried to move aerials to see if we could watch the All England in black and white, and probably the
Wow.
days of Rudy Hurtono. I
Oh,
think.
is that the man, or was that your idol? Do you think at the time who was your idol?
Well, I think he was probably most people. He won
What
the
was
All
that
England.
name? I haven't heard that name actually. Rudy, what was it?
Rudy Hurtono. I think he won the All England about seven. I don't know if it was 7 years in a row, or it was very close to it, if not that. But he was certainly the star player of that era from Indonesia.
When I grew up, it was Morton Frost. I just loved Morton
Yeah,
Frost. But I never
yeah,
grew it. I always wanted to have his height, but I never had it. And Victor Axelsen reminds me of him quite a lot. You know, that effortless one step from corner to corner on the court. It's just phenomenal, isn't it? The height of these Danes.
yeah. Well, Martin Frost was a frequent visitor to the Scottish Open
Was
back in
he?
the days when it used to be held at Meadowbank.
Was he?
The Scottish Open used to be held in Meadowbank in the, well, I suppose that would be in the 80s and probably 70s and 80s. And Martin Frost and some of the other top Danes and one or two of the Chinese guys came across and played there as well.
Really?
So it was,
Wow.
we used to have, some
Yeah, that was
fantastic
80s.
player of Martin's
Yeah,
capabilities. And,
absolutely incredible. Okay, question about your first racket. Do you remember what it was?
I do actually, yeah. It was a Carlton 4.1, which I
Wow.
bought. Or more accurately, my parents would have bought for me, which, in a shop called Coots in Church Street in Inverness. So there you
Really?
go.
And do you remember
But
how much it was?
no, I really can't. I can't really remember. Um, I did Google it to see if I could find out, and I couldn't find anything. But it was,
Yeah, I
yeah,
can't see much. I can't see much about it. It doesn't show. That's it. Did it have the white thing at the top? And it was, yeah.
it was a dark coloured head. I remember that. And
So was that the
then I
same
think,
time as it? Oh, it must have been Whale before. Do you remember the 3.7X? That's what I always used to have.
yeah, so that I think was the next racket I got was 3.7X.
Yeah.
Um, and then I went back to using wooden rackets,
Did you?
partly to do with getting terms from different suppliers from Dunlop and Slasengers, and then yeah, so
Carlton was
whether
the
that was,
name, wasn't it? When I grew up, it was the name. Carlton was the name.
Carlton
Everything.
was, it was very much so. It dominated
The
the
market.
badminton in the UK until probably the same as Yonex became
I know.
the dominant force.
When I came back to badminton about 10 years ago, I came back and I bought two Yonex Carlton rackets. And then I found out later that Carlton had been bought by Dunlop.
That's right. Yeah,
And so I got rid of
yeah,
them,
yeah.
which is just snobbery on my part, but there you are. It's good. A nice one. A Carlton 4.1. That's awesome. Where did it go? Kind of racket. What was the name of your first club? Was it
I
just
guess it was just
Fortrose?
Porter's Club. I
Fortrose,
think
yeah.
Porter's Badminton Club.
What was the whole like? We'll cover that. Do you remember how much it cost? Do you remember when you went? If you had to pay when you went every week, do you remember how much it was?
I really don't know because I suspect. Well, I
You
would have
never
been paying
paid.
for it anyway, so I really don't know.
You
But
don't know. That's fine.
I don't think. And again, when we played at the school, I suspect the facilities were just provided. I don't think we'd have had to pay for that
Yeah,
either at
well,
that time. I don't know.
yeah,
I, I,
yeah.
cer- I certainly don't recall it being docked from pocket money or anything like that.
Well, yeah. I actually, I think I'm quite similar. I think it was just yeah. I think it was just when they needed money, you had to put money in, and that was the kind of thing. The kind of shuttles you used. Do you remember?
Yeah, well, at that time, the top feather shuttles were RSL number one tourney. That was the shuttle.
Did you play feathers? Did you play feathers at the club, or was that? What
Well,
were
I think
they?
at the school we probably played with Island shuttles,
Yeah,
Carlton Island shuttles,
yeah.
and some of
That's
the school's tournaments were all held with Nylon shuttles. But
yeah.
I think when we played at that club in Fortrose, and certainly when we played against each other, we would have played with RSL tourneys.
RSL tourneys. That's right. Yeah. Well.
And they were quite expensive. And in fact, I think by the time I left school, there was probably almost about £12 a box, which
Oh
actually
wow,
makes
it's a
you.
lot.
It was a lot then, yeah.
But you would
again.
play. You remember you would play with a shuttle that you would never see now. Now you see a single feather gone and people put them away. In those days, there were like three or four gone.
We certainly wouldn't have been as fussy as London, that's for sure.
No, no, that's quite bad. We coached. When did you ever get any coaching?
So some basic coaching from my father, from things that he'd picked up, and about grip and about hitting trying to catch a shuttle as high as possible and things like that. But I suppose the first formal coaching I ever got would have been going to some of the Scottish badminton courses at Inverclyde
Oh,
in the
right.
summer. So
Is that like camps, badminton camps,
yeah,
kind of?
so
Nice.
so the first one I would have gone to, and that was when I was under 14 at Inverclyde, and
They're residential, weren't they? You'd stay for like a
yeah,
week kind of thing in the
yeah,
summer kind of thing, was it?
yeah, that's right. It was for a week in the school holidays.
Wow.
So yeah, then I got into a few squads, and would have had some coaching from some of the well, we're very fortunate actually. I think some of the coaches that this is always a dangerous thing to say because then you worry you miss out somebody really important.
Don't worry.
Um, but obviously there's people like Mac Henderson
Yeah.
and Johnny Barry. Johnny Barry and John Britton were our coaches in
Were
the
there?
under 14 squad that we went to at Inverclyde. But probably what 1 year at Inverclyde, I was fortunate enough to be invited to a squad where Paul Whitnell and his wife Sue Whitnell, who were absolutely world class players, and Ray Stevens, who was obviously another world class player,
Yeah.
were the three main coaches, and so that was really good. And then the Scottish coaches then had Roger Mills, who sadly passed away recently. But there were some excellent coaches that I was fortunate enough to
Wow.
get help from, and people like Bob McCoig, who was he came along to the squads and helped juniors, and so it's great memories of these sort of things, really.
Yeah, amazing. I think those camps still go on. Chris White, I think
Uh-huh.
he still goes to them. He loves it. He
Yeah,
swears by them. I think the weekend courses, the kind of residential courses, and
yeah.
yeah. I don't know what it is. I've never been mad fond of. I used to go to coaching, and I was never mad fond of drill, so I just found it a bit repetitive and monotonous, and I just thought it becomes a bit predictable. And even when I see them to this day, Greg Broadbent be cursing me because all he does is post videos of drills. But I can't face it. I know that everybody suggests it, but it's a bit
I think
monotonous.
you have to do it. I'm afraid
Yeah,
it's
I know. I remember. Don't get me wrong. I remember doing it, and yeah, growing up it was fine. But I don't really. Yeah. So next question. So, what was your most successful and favorite event? Singles, mixed, or doubles?
I
But
suppose,
I suppose it'd be different through time, right?
yeah. I guess I had a reasonable amount of success at singles as a junior, but also did okay in the doubles and mixed events as well. So I think in terms of some of the most memorable wins were possibly at men's doubles. Um, Probably, it's. I think we had probably the most memorable really was when I got to semi-finals of the doubles at the nationals with my brother, with
Oh,
Donald, and we almost managed to win the semi. Well, I don't know if we managed to win, but it was a very close semi-final. Where
fantastic,
back and goal
fantastic.
scoring system, I think we lost 59 in the third set. It was close all the way,
Wow.
but that was quite memorable. And then another doubles win that I had with Neil Hibbington, who's a good friend who used to live in and play in Lothian, that now has moved away moved many years ago to the US. But we managed to beat Russell Hogg and Al McMillan in the first round of the East Senior one year, which was obviously totally unexpected because they were the top seeds and
Yeah.
went on to win the Nationals that year, I think.
Fantastic.
So yeah, one or two memorable moments over the years.
And so, what age? So, where are we now? So, that's kind of gone through most of your history as we see it. So, the main competition. And did you have a partner, a men's doubles partner that you played with all the time? Who was your?
Well,
Did you have somebody?
I played. Yeah, as juniors, played with quite a few different people. Played with my good old friend Colin Ross, who I played all the veterans with now.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Played with Colin in a few events, but probably as a senior, I played mostly with my two brothers, with Donald, and played with Ian in quite a lot of events, and played with Neil. Alistair Robertson from Lothian as
Oh,
well. Played
yes.
quite a
Did you?
few tournaments with Alistair. Steve quite a lot of the Lothian players, and so they were probably the people that I played most of my doubles with.
Oh, that's great. So, moving on to the current day, I suppose.
Mm.
What clubs do you play now, and how often do you play? Yeah.
Well,
Obviously, just not. All right. Okay. Let's go back maybe 2 years. Yeah.
So, well, I play at Western, and that's the only club
Yes.
that I play at.
Uh huh. And do you have
But
any? Do you play any social? Uh-huh.
we book courts
Great.
and play with. Sometimes play with Ross Gladwin, play with
Oh,
Ian,
good.
and sometimes if the younger players like my nephew Keith and his
Yeah.
group
Yeah.
are short of somebody, then I might get a call up. But yeah, while I was working, it was hard to keep on playing that much because I worked away from home most of
Did you? What did you
most.
do, Colin,
I was a
for
project
work?
manager for Capgemini, the
Oh,
IT.
really? Yeah. Yeah. I know them. Yeah. Yeah. Well, did they? Were
So
they in Slateford Road in
they
Edinburgh?
were. That was when they had a call center there for the train line. But
Was it?
they're actually a massive IT company, and I think the last time I looked, they employed something like 280,000 people around the world.
Wow.
Got a massive workforce out in India.
So
Uh,
are you an IT guy? Were you an IT yourself, or what would
yeah,
you? Were
yeah.
you?
Mhm.
Cool. Wow. And where did you go to university and stuff? Did you? Where did you study?
I went to
How did you
Aberdeen.
get away from? I guess how did you get away from Fortrose? When did you leave and come down? No.
Yeah, I went to Aberdeen University when I left school.
Right.
So I was quite young when I left school. I was just 16, going on 17 when I went to university,
Yeah.
and then I
Wow.
had 4 years at Aberdeen, and then came down to Edinburgh after that. And
Ah.
I've lived. I must like it because so that was 1979, and I've
That
never
was.
left.
I know. And do you remember why you came to Edinburgh from Aberdeen? You just
Uh,
felt like it was a bigger city. What was it?
I think one of the
Friends and
reasons
stuff.
was to try and improve my badminton.
Was it?
Uh, and both Donald and Ian had moved down to Edinburgh. I knew quite a lot of people down in Edinburgh as well. I did love
Wow.
living in Aberdeen as well, and there was, it was competitive badminton there. There was, people like Colin Ross, who and his brother, and then obviously Tony Dawson, who was the star player in the Northeast at
Right.
that time. And
When
so
when I come off this, I'm going to go do so much googling. It's ridiculous. It's
it was
amazing.
it was arranged leaving Aberdeen at the time because I was a big supporter of Aberdeen Football Club
Oh,
then.
yeah. I know you
And
still.
I still
You
support
follow them.
Aberdeen. I don't go to matches anymore. But
Yeah.
just as I was leaving was the time when Alex Ferguson became manager and the start of the great era. So I actually spent quite a lot of time travelling up to Aberdeen for midweek European matches. And
I can't pretend to talk about football because I don't know anything about it. I was brought up in the northeast, and it was
you'll
Sunderland.
heard of Alex Ferguson anyway, I'm sure.
Yes, I've heard of Alex. Yes, absolutely. So no, that's great. I'm conscious of time. Actually, I'm taking it. Well, you've been on for 25 minutes. It's amazing, isn't it? What is your current favourite racket?
Well, it's a
You've
Yonex.
brought it. Good.
Got it here for to show you. An Anoray 750.
Oh yes,
It's
very
sadly they
nice.
don't make anymore, but it's an absolutely lovely racket.
They're really
And
light. It's a light model, isn't it? It's quite light.
like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
good for an old guy that's not as strong as he once was. But
Is it your? Is it? I bet it's not Ashaway strings you use. Is it Yonex?
Yonex strings, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I always aspired to having Yonex equipment, and I started off getting Martin's Castos and Michael's Castos as because they were both playing with the Onyx
And get. Do they just?
but now,
Is it the kind of thing they just come back with rackets, or do they have to? When you're an international player, do you just get given rackets? You always think that they just get given more and more and more rackets, and they just come back with them all the time. What happens
it
with that?
depends on. It's not that easy to get contracts. Ultimately, when Martin was playing full-time international badminton, he was on
Yes.
a pretty good contract with Yonex. But there's this, it's not, I'm sure
It's not
Victor
easy.
Axelson gets rackets thrown at him, but
No, no. Well, that's you always
it's not
think that, don't you? I mean, I watched the tennis. In fact, I was watching tennis bloopers, ATP bloopers about people, going mad with rackets, and they're just smashing rackets off the ground
yeah,
as hard as and absolutely pummeling. They're like £250 a racket, and you think,
yeah.
how does that happen? How
I have
does
to
that?
say that would not have gone down well with Yonex if
Oh, really?
any of the players were seen to be smashing the rackets on them.
No, no. Tennis, they seem to get away with it.
Yeah.
Good. So that's Yonex. Sorry, what was that? Yonex Nanare.
Anoray 750.
I don't know why I'm writing this down because I've got you on video. How do you manage family life and badminton? Yeah, I suppose not so much now, but I suppose when you're, when you're working all the time, and I think I was quite conscious of Martin with that, and kind of generally having children, and because Martin, I would imagine, was quite a big responsibility, kind of got taken to training, and how often was training happening and things?
Well, both myself and my wife spent a lot of time travelling to training because it was Martin and Michael.
Oh yeah,
Because
that's it.
Michael
Yeah,
was an international, junior international player, and so
both at
and
the
quite
same
often,
time, Colin.
yeah, there's 2 years. They're 2 years apart, so
Right.
quite often so they were fortunate that the coaches they had in Edinburgh, Martin's main coach was Kenny Middlemas, and Michael's main coach was Eleanor Middlemas.
Right.
So, so that was a good starting point in terms of their development. But they did go through the squads and at the weekends, and usually one was on a Saturday and another was on a Sunday. So
Oh
it did
really?
take up a lot of time, but you know,
Yeah, you
we
do.
were just so thrilled that they loved the sport, they were doing so well,
Yeah.
and we've been happy if they'd taken up any sport, but particularly in a sport that we both loved. It was just
Did your wife
amazing.
play? Does your wife play badminton, Colin?
She played at a club in Edinburgh. She doesn't play anymore. She plays a lot of tennis.
Does she? Yeah.
Uh, but she certainly developed a lot of knowledge about about badminton over the years of watching.
Do you ever have any games with you and Ian against Martin and Michael?
I don't think that would. At one time it would have worked out okay, but probably from the time that it
If
wouldn't.
you had a space machine, if you had a time machine,
Yeah, I think
I'd like to see
at
that.
the level that they played at when they're at their best is just
Yeah,
way
no.
above way above what we would have achieved. But
It's incredible, but don't you think with badminton, You've got to play at the level to compete at the level, and you've got to do it every single day of life. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's right. That's right. And but you've also got to have the will to do it and the commitment. And there's seen so many talented kids go through the ranks, and so many of them sadly don't carry on playing with it. But I mean, for a multitude of different reasons. But yeah, it,
Fantastic.
it's been great. It's a real privilege to be able to try and help them and achieving what they wanted
Well,
to out of the sport.
they're an absolute credit to you, and a credit to your dedication, and everybody kind of you take away and you think all the somebody in the background all the time when people are developed, especially young. That I think it's so difficult when you get to teenage years. All the focus is given to children and kids up to a certain age, and if you don't show enough promise up until an age, it seems to be you're dismissed. And I see it all the time where have all the investment in them up until a certain age, until somebody realizes maybe they're never going to be an international, and they just drop off. And I see so many people that over the years who disappear from badminton and just get scunnered with it for that 10-year period, and then they come back in their late 20s and 30s because kind of the society's let them go after 17. They get so much attention and this and that and the next thing, and it just stops, I suppose. But however, that's life, isn't it? What's your favourite event now? Competitive, covered that. Do you feel as competitive now as you did? How do you feel about how competitive do you when you play? How much do you give? Do you still feel the
Oh yeah,
same?
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, it doesn't. Uh, yeah, I wouldn't say that if you lose now that it is as big a deal as it was when you're in your 20s. But yeah, when you enter a tournament, still, particularly when you're entering a tournament in your own age group, then you want to
Winner.
try and win it. You want to be as competitive as you possibly can be. But yeah, I would like to think I get over it a bit more. More quickly than I did once upon a time, and slightly less bad tempered than I was.
And finally, the very last question, thank you, is what is it, do you think, if you could summarise, what is it you love about badminton, I suppose? Just generally, what is it about badminton that's different, do you think, from other things? I've got my opinions, but I wonder what you think of that.
Um, well, it's an interesting question because I do love other sports as well. Probably particularly tennis as well. But I think in terms of watching badminton, I've been fortunate, as you know, to be able to go to the All England and see the World Championships here in Scotland, and attend some of the World Championships in other countries as well. And I've also been fortunate enough to see the top tennis players of the current era, which I
Have
think is
you?
widely regarded as the greatest tennis era. So Andy Murray, Roger Federer, Rafa
Nadal.
Nadal, Djokovic. Seen all these people play, and I have to say that much as though I love watching the tennis, the nothing quite takes your breath away in the same way as watching some of the matches at the All England, and the speed, the
That's right.
agility, and the level of fitness is just absolutely extraordinary. And
Okay.
obviously, I know that the top tennis players are incredible athletes as well. But just in terms of taking your breath away, I think. And maybe it's because it's a game that I've played more, at a higher level myself, that you appreciate, how is that even possible what they're doing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. The
but
thing, the thing I love about Edinburgh badminton, for me, is it's really the kind of this. It just brings together a mix of people. I just love it. I just love the mix of people coming in. I'm getting a time warning now. I just
well, I
love the
think
mix of people coming in from all over, and people
yeah,
from all over the world. How hard is it to travel with a badminton racket? And they bring a badminton racket, and they're
yeah.
on in Edinburgh. I just love that.
I think I think that's definitely one of the great things about the sport is that, throughout my life, I've met so many fantastic people that I've been friends with since, say, since I was under 14.
Amazing.
And you might not see them for 10, 20 years, and then you see them again, and it's, you
As
never
if it
lose
never happened.
that friendship that you had with them. And,
Amazing.
I can't think of too many people over the years that I've been involved with in badminton that that you wouldn't say that are really good people, and that have been become very good friends.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
great. Thank you, Colin.
thank you, Martin.
Thank you very much. I hope it wasn't too painful.
No, and good luck
No, thank you,
with you.
thank you very much, and I really appreciate it. That's 35 minutes, and we're on the
Right.
bell. That's great. Have a
Okay.
great night. Thank you. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers. Cheers.